A 14-year-old girl sits in the pilot's seat of a massive military plane. 211 lives depend on her shaking hands. The real pilots are unconscious. The fuel is running out. Lightning has damaged the aircraft. She has never flown before, but giving up is not an option. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more videos. Sarah Miller was not like other 14-year-old girls. While her friends were busy with school dances and shopping, Sarah spent her free time at Falcon Air Base. Her father, Colonel James Miller, was the base commander. Her mother, Captain Lisa Miller, was a flight instructor for new pilots. Sarah had grown up around planes. She knew the sound of every aircraft engine. She could tell the difference between an F-16 fighter jet and a C-130 transport plane just by listening. The pilots at the base called her Little Wings because she always talked about flying. One day, "I'll be a pilot like you, Dad," Sarah would say every morning at breakfast. Colonel Miller would smile and say, "Maybe when you're older, sweetheart." Flying military planes is very dangerous work, but Sarah was not just dreaming. She had been secretly taking flying lessons with her mother. Captain Miller taught her everything about basic flight controls, reading instruments, and emergency procedures. Sarah was a quick learner. "She has natural talent," Captain Miller told her husband one evening. "Sarah understands flying better than some of our new recruits." The base was home to 500 military personnel and their families. It had 3 runways and housed different types of aircraft. There were fighter jets for combat missions, transport planes for moving troops and supplies, and training aircraft for new pilots. One cloudy Tuesday morning, Colonel Miller received an urgent call from headquarters. A transport plane carrying 211 military personnel had lost contact during a routine flight. The plane was carrying soldiers returning home after 6 months of overseas duty. "Sir, we lost radio contact with Transport 7, 20 minutes ago," reported Sergeant Davis. "Their last known position was 200 miles northeast of our base, Colonel." Miller immediately ordered a search and rescue mission. 3 fighter jets took off to search for the missing plane. The weather was getting worse, with thick clouds and strong winds. "I want every available pilot ready for rescue operations," Colonel Miller commanded. "These are our people out there." Captain Miller was scheduled to fly a training mission that morning, but all training flights were canceled. Every pilot was needed for the search mission. Meanwhile, Sarah was in the base control tower doing her homework. She often studied there because she loved listening to radio communications between pilots and ground control. The control tower had large windows that gave a perfect view of the entire base. 2 hours later, one of the search jets found Transport 7. The news was not good. "Base control. This is Eagle 1, came the voice over the radio. "I found Transport 7. The plane is damaged but still flying. It looks like they were hit by lightning. I can see smoke coming from one engine." Transport 7 was a large C-130 cargo plane. These planes are strong and reliable, but they need skilled pilots to fly them safely. The plane was designed to carry heavy loads and could land on short runways. "Eagle 1, can you see the pilots?" asked the controller. "Negative, base control. The cockpit windows are damaged. I cannot see inside." Colonel Miller grabbed the radio microphone. "Transport 7, this is Falcon Base. Do you copy?" There was static. Then a weak voice responded, "Falcon Base. This is Transport 7. We have serious problems." The voice was shaky and scared. It was not the voice of Captain Rodriguez, the experienced pilot who was supposed to be flying the plane. "Transport 7, identify yourself," Colonel Miller said into the radio. "Sir, this is Maria Santos. I'm 14 years old. I'm the daughter of Sergeant Santos." Everyone in the control tower froze. A 14-year-old girl was flying a military transport plane with 211 people on board. "Maria, where are the pilots?" Colonel Miller asked, trying to stay calm. "Sir, Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Johnson were both hurt when lightning hit us. They're unconscious. The co-pilot tried to teach me some things before he passed out. I've been flying for 2 hours." Sarah, who had been quietly doing homework, suddenly stood up. She knew Maria Santos. They had met at base family events. Maria's father was a sergeant in the communications unit. "Dad, I know her," Sarah whispered. "Maria is smart, but she doesn't know anything about flying." Colonel Miller's face was pale. A young girl with no flight training was flying a damaged plane with 201 lives depending on her. The situation was desperate. Transport 7 was running low on fuel. The damaged engine was getting worse, and the weather was making everything more difficult. "Maria, listen carefully," Colonel Miller said. "We're going to help you land that plane safely." "I'm scared, sir," Maria's voice cracked. "The plane is shaking, and I don't understand all these buttons and switches." Captain Miller stepped forward. "Colonel, let me talk to her. I'm a flight instructor. Maria, this is Captain Miller. I'm going to teach you how to fly this plane step by step. First, tell me what you see on the instrument panel in front of you." For the next hour, Captain Miller guided Maria through basic flight procedures. She taught her how to read the altitude gauge, airspeed indicator, and fuel gauge. She explained how to use the radio and how to control the plane's direction. But there was a problem. Captain Miller had never flown a C-130 transport plane. She was a trainer pilot who flew small aircraft. The C-130 was much bigger and more complex. Sarah had been listening to every word. She remembered all the times she had visited the transport plane hangar with her father. She had asked many questions about the big planes and how they worked. "Mom," Sarah said quietly, "I know about C-130s. Dad showed me the cockpit many times. I remember the landing procedures." Captain Miller looked at her daughter with surprise. "Sarah, this is not a game. This is a real emergency." "I know, Mom, but Maria needs help, and I might be able to help her." Colonel Miller heard his daughter's words. He was facing an impossible choice. Should he let his 14-year-old daughter help guide another 14-year-old girl through landing a military transport plane? The base operations officer approached Colonel Miller. "Sir, we have another problem. The runway at our base is too short for a damaged C-130. Transport 7 needs to land at the civilian airport 50 miles south of here. But that airport is not equipped for military emergencies. Time was running out. Transport 7 had only 30 minutes of fuel left. Colonel Miller made a difficult decision. "Sarah, if you think you can help, then help. But you must follow exactly what the flight manual says." Sarah nodded seriously. She grabbed the C-130 flight manual and opened it to the emergency landing procedures. "Maria, this is Sarah Miller. I'm going to help you bring that plane home safely." "Sarah, is that you?" "Thank God. I'm so scared up here." "I know you're scared, Maria, but you're doing great. You've kept everyone safe for 3 hours. Now we just need to land safely." Sarah began reading from the manual, translating the complex technical language into simple words that Maria could understand. "First, Maria, look for a lever on your left side that says landing gear. Can you find it?" "Yes, I see it." "Good. In 10 minutes, I'll tell you when to pull that lever. That will lower the wheels so we can land." The civilian airport had been cleared for the emergency landing. All other flights were canceled or diverted. Fire trucks and ambulances surrounded the runway, ready for any situation. Captain Miller coordinated with the airport control tower while Sarah continued guiding Maria through the landing procedures. "Maria, you're doing great," Sarah said. "Now I need you to find a button that says flaps. This will help slow down the plane for landing." Transport 7 was now visible from the airport. The plane was flying lower than normal, and black smoke was still coming from the damaged engine. "Sarah, the plane is shaking more now," Maria said, fear clear in her voice. "That's normal. Maria, the plane is heavy and you're flying slower now. Just keep the nose pointed toward the runway." Colonel Miller was coordinating with emergency services. "All medical teams, be ready. We have 2 unconscious pilots and 211 passengers who may be injured." "Maria, you're 2 miles from the runway," Sarah announced. "It's time to lower the landing gear. Pull that lever I showed you earlier." Everyone held their breath as they waited for Maria's response. "I pulled it, Sarah. I can hear something moving under the plane." "Perfect. Those are the wheels coming down. Now see that dial that shows your speed? Tell me what number you see." "It says 180. "That's too fast. You need to slow down to 140. There's a throttle control. It looks like 2 small levers. Pull them back slowly." The plane was now 1 mile from the runway. From the ground, people could see Transport 7 approaching. It was flying at the right angle, but it seemed to be coming in too fast. "Maria, you're almost there," Sarah said. "When I say now, I want you to pull back gently on the control wheel. This will lift the nose up a little. Transport 7 was 500 feet from the runway. Get ready, Maria." 200 feet? 100 feet? "Now, pull back gently." Maria followed Sarah's instructions. The plane's nose came up slightly and the back wheels touched the runway first. But the plane was still moving very fast. "Pull back on those throttle levers all the way," Sarah shouted. "And step on the top of the pedals with your feet." Maria did exactly what Sarah told her. The plane's engine slowed down and the brakes began working. Transport 7 rolled down the runway, gradually slowing down, but there was still danger. The runway was not long enough for such a heavy plane landing at high speed. Transport 7 was still moving too fast as it reached the end of the runway. The airport had prepared for this possibility by placing emergency barriers at the end of the runway. "Maria, hold tight," Sarah called out. "You're going to feel a big bump, but you did it." "You landed the plane!" The plane hit the emergency barriers and finally stopped. Immediately, fire trucks and ambulances surrounded the aircraft. Emergency crews rushed to help the passengers and the unconscious pilots. Within minutes, all 201 passengers were safely evacuated from the plane. Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Johnson were taken to the hospital, but doctors said they would recover fully. Maria Santos climbed out of the cockpit, shaking but unharmed. She had successfully landed a military transport plane weighing 75,000 pounds. The next day, news reporters from around the world came to Falcon Air Base to tell the story of two 14-year-old girls who saved 201 lives. Maria Santos and Sarah Miller became instant heroes. They received medals from the Air Force and letters from the President of the United States. "These two young ladies showed incredible courage and skill under pressure," said General Thompson, the Air Force Chief of Staff. "They represent the best of our military families." But both girls stayed humble about their actions. "I was just trying to help my friend," Sarah said during a press conference. "Anyone would have done the same thing," Maria added. "I was scared the whole time, but Sarah's voice kept me calm. She saved everyone on that plane, not me." Military investigators spent weeks studying what happened to Transport 7. They discovered that the plane had flown through a severe thunderstorm. Lightning had struck the aircraft twice, causing electrical damage and injuring the pilots. The investigation praised Maria's actions during the emergency. Despite having no flight training, she had kept the plane stable for over 3 hours. The report also praised Sarah's knowledge of aircraft systems and her ability to translate complex procedures into simple instructions. "This incident shows the importance of military families' understanding aviation," the report concluded. Both girls demonstrated exceptional knowledge and maturity. Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Johnson made full recoveries. They visited Maria and Sarah in the hospital to thank them personally. "You saved our lives and the lives of everyone on that plane," Captain Rodriguez told the girls. "We can never thank you enough." The incident led to several changes at Falcon Air Base. The military decided to create a new program called Young Eagles that would teach basic aviation knowledge to children of military families. Sarah became the first student in the program, and Maria joined as well. Other military bases around the country started similar programs. "We learned that young people can contribute to aviation safety," Colonel Miller explained. "This program will prepare military children to help in emergencies." Both girls continued their regular education, but they also began formal flight training. The Air Force Academy offered them guaranteed acceptance if they maintained good grades and completed their flight training. 2 years later, Sarah and Maria were still best friends. They had both earned their private pilot licenses and were planning to attend the Air Force Academy together. "I never imagined that one scary day would change our lives so much," Maria said as they sat in a small training aircraft. Sarah smiled as she performed a perfect landing. "I always knew we were meant to fly." The story of Transport 7 became legendary in military aviation. Flight schools around the world used it as an example of how quick thinking and teamwork could save lives in emergencies. Captain Miller continued teaching new pilots, always telling them about the day her daughter helped save 201 lives. Colonel Miller was promoted to general and became responsible for aviation safety at military bases worldwide. Maria's father, Sergeant Santos, was promoted to lieutenant and became an aviation safety specialist. He often spoke at schools about the importance of staying calm during emergencies. 10 years later, Colonel Sarah Miller, she had kept her promise to become a pilot, and Colonel Maria Santos were both flying fighter jets for the Air Force. They had flown combat missions together and were considered two of the best pilots in the military. The original, Transport 7, was repaired and continued, flying missions for many years. Eventually, it was retired and put on display at the National Air and Space Museum with a plaque that read, "This aircraft was successfully landed by 14-year-old Maria Santos, guided by 14-year-old Sarah Miller, saving 201 lives." Visitors to the museum often stop to read the story and shake their heads in amazement. Many young people who saw the display were inspired to pursue careers in aviation. The Young Eagles program that started at Falcon Air Base had expanded to all military bases and had trained thousands of children in basic aviation knowledge. Several other emergencies had been successfully handled by young people who remembered their training. Sarah and Maria often visited schools to tell their story. Their message was always the same: you're never too young to make a difference. Stay calm, listen carefully, and remember that knowledge can save lives. The friendship that began during 3 terrifying hours in the sky lasted a lifetime. Both women eventually became generals in the Air Force, and they continued to inspire new generations of pilots. Their story proved that heroes come in all ages, and sometimes the most unlikely people can save the day when it matters most.